Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Joe, where I help you make better coffee and give you honest reviews. Today I am going to be taking a head-to-head look between the Eureka Libra, which I reviewed a few weeks ago. I'll put it in a little link up there if you want to check out that review. And then the DF64, which I also have a review for, and I'll also put a little link up top. So you can click on that if you want to see the separate reviews of those units. But today I'm doing a comparison because I think it's pretty necessary to take a look at the Libra and compare it against a few other machines, notably the DF64. This is a single doser. That's my favorite flat burr grinder to date has been the DF64 just because of how fluffy the grinds are, especially at the price point. And then the Eureka Libra, which I have also come to like a lot. This is my new bench machine, along with the DF64. These have just been sitting here for a while, so I thought it was time to do a nice comparison. So let me just kind of get into it. The biggest thing that I've noticed right off the bat on these two machines is that after using the DF64 again for a while, I actually probably would have lowered my Libra score by a few points, not like full points, but like fractional points, because the DF64 just produces a lot better grinds. I just forgot how fluffy and perfect the grinds are on the DF64. Shots pool so nice on that grinder, whereas the Eureka Libra, which I thought it was doing a better job with clumping, but as I've been using it more and more, it still has a decent bit of clumps, and you could really see it when you're pulling shots, especially if you're not doing like a really aggressive WDT. All right, the next thing on these grinders that I want to kind of show is sort of the build quality and stuff. So they're both actually really nicely built. They both weigh a lot. When you pick them up, you feel like there's some substantial stuff going on there. A lot of nice building materials like metal and stuff like that. There's basically no plastic on either of these. The only plastic I've seen is for the Eureka is this little plastic knob here and the plastic knob up top. And this is like partially metal, partially plastic. So that's not too bad of an issue there. And then on the Eureka, or on the DF64 rather, you have like the plastic holder here, and the plastic, the partially plastic base, which is like a coated metal. But other than that, they're both like super nicely built. I don't have an issue with either of them. I think both have plenty high quality build for me to say that this is not going to break down after a year of use or something like that. Whereas like something like maybe the Barista line of stuff, like basically all their models kind of feel plasticky and cheap. Same thing with like Breville. So yeah, I would say that they're both pretty high quality there. All right, the next thing I'm going to talk about quick is like the look of it. I think the look of both these are very nice. I don't really have a huge deal with the DF64, but I do think that the Eureka Libra does look a little bit nicer. It's got a more astute look with the squared off edges. You got some of the chrome accent pieces. So I do think that the Eureka beats out in this category. I think that's one reason why people really like the Eureka in general, is just it looks really nice and it feels really nice to use. Whereas the DF64, it's not really a looker. It's it doesn't look bad, but it's it's just cylindrical, and you have it coated on the outside with like kind of a vinyl wrap or whatever. You can get it in metal, but it's not like it's a really glossed up mirrored finish or anything like that. So generally speaking, I'd say the Eureka wins in that category. And then obviously using both of them. So in terms of general use, I think clearly the Libra, in terms of just workflow and stuff, that's going to be the nicer machine. Not only do you have kind of nicer parts, but when you put it in there, you hit a button, it gets your exact grinded weight. So I think it's just a very good experience when you're using a grind by weight grinder in general. So that type of workflow is just really nice. You pop it in, hit a button, and you're good to go. Whereas with the DF64, it's not quite as a pleasure to use. One thing to note is when you're grinding into the portafilter directly, which I do recommend. Some people use the little dosing cup that it comes with. I don't recommend doing that. But if you do grind directly into the portafilter, this is not, the hooks here are not very sturdy. I've had plenty of times where I'm grinding, and if I'm not paying attention, I'm letting it sit in the hooks for a little longer, it will fall. I just had that happen, I think 2 days ago. It was pretty disappointing. Grinds went everywhere, and yeah, it's just a big bummer. Whereas when you have the grinder, you have the portafilter on the Eureka Libra, you're not going to have that issue because one, it's very, very sturdy. It's got nice grips on the bottom, and it kind of sits in there nice. Whereas, you know, the other one, it's kind of hanging on by a thread. It's not a very, it's not a good feeling, I should say. You're pushing it in there and you're hitting it and it's staying, but you're like, oh crap, maybe this thing's gonna fall. So you definitely don't have that feeling on the Eureka Libra. So with all that said, let me grind some coffee out. We will do a shot comparison. Let me show you that bottomless portafilter there. I think that's gonna be super important because I really wanna demonstrate to show you how much of a difference fluffy grinds makes versus clumpy grinds. So let me go ahead and do that. And all right, so let's make this shot of coffee. All right, so we're gonna do kind of a side-by-side shot. I'll make the first one with the Eureka, and then I'll make the second one with the DF64, and we will compare the shots from the bottomless portafilter and also the grinds from each. So let me go ahead and get started here. All right, so this is pretty flat, nicely tapped around. So I'm not going to do the standard WDT because, like I said, I like to show grinders without it. That's how I like to review grinders, just to show you how good they are at declumping and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my Normcore portafilter. I always normally use one. And I'm going to use the thinner one today. All queued up here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I like to blast it, get it to about 1 to 2 bars, and then slow down my shot almost to a halt. All right, so that's not looking too bad. Now I'm going to ramp it up. Okay, so as you can see, there's some flaking, which is, I like, makes it look prettier. Some people say it makes it taste worse, but it looks pretty good. See how we did. Unfortunately, I didn't start the weight there on the first one, so I used another cup to kind of determine. I think, let's see here. Yeah, we got about 38 grams out, which is pretty good. That's right around where I shoot for because I put 16 grams in. So it's pretty good. It's a little bitter, so slightly over extracted, which is odd because 30 seconds is normally a pretty good timeline. But yeah, it does taste a little bit more bitter than I'm used to, especially for this coffee. And what I'm using right now is the Onyx coffee. This is the their standard espresso. blend. So let me go ahead and switch up. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so let's move on to the DF64. I have exactly 16 grams measured out in this here portafilter. So I am going to pop it in to the grinder. All right, and that is the reason why I recommend going directly into a portafilter, because if you take a look, there is the fines are on top, so it's better to get your fines on top of your puck than to get it on the bottom, just for flow rate purposes, because a lot of times that'll clog up the bottom of your. As you can see, the grinds on this are significantly more fluffy. So it, to me, makes a bigger difference, and we will show that in the shot quality. All right, so same exact process. I tapped it a few times, kind of leveled it off, hit it down, tamped. Gonna put on this. I cleaned everything out, so everything should be, oop, there we go. All right. And let's see how this one goes. Now we're going to ramp the pressure up. And see how this is just a little more even? Everything's kind of a little bit more together on this one. So now we're going to start ramping the pressure down. And we did 38 grams, almost identical to the last shot. So we have 38 grams here in 29 seconds. So I missed it by a little bit, but that's okay. Shot here, I'm going to stir it on up. Cheers. Now that's definitely more of what I expect out of that coffee. It's a lot less bitter. Has some bright notes right at the front, but nothing crazy. Nothing like very bright. This is more of a traditional type of espresso. Lots of chocolate, lots of nutty flavors. So yeah, this is really good, and it made this beautiful layer of crema. As you could see during that shot, you saw how on that second one it came together kind of all at once, and then when it leveled off, once it all, all the streams kind of came together, you saw that it was very uniform. There was not like super dark spots. There wasn't a lot of tiger striping, which some people say it's good, but it really generally isn't, because that means there's over and under extractions happening generally. It's better that it's all uniform. So in conclusion, the DF64, as you can see with the grinds that I showed in my shot when I was, tamping and everything, the grinds are fluffier, and it produces generally a better shot because you don't have the bouldering and things. Obviously, unless you're, if you're using WDT, then, you're probably going to get pretty similar results out of both. But, if you're somebody who's trying to, back down on all the steps, the DF64 is good with that. But then you have the other thing of like having to weigh it out every time. So it's really a toss-up a little bit, but just generally speaking, if I'm going to say one grinder in terms of the end product being better, the DF64 actually does produce a better grind. But you have to think there's a 64 millimeter burr set in there. I've upgraded those to SSP burrs. And then on top of that, this is a 50, I think this is like a 50 or 54 millimeter burr set on the Eureka. So, it's hard to say which one is better. For me, my daily use grinder is both these. This is for my decaf or my specialty coffees where I only have a little bit. And then this is for my daily morning espresso when my brain's a little foggy and I don't want to think much. I just hit the button, the right amount of grinds come out, and then you're ready to go. So just as a reminder, the scores on this, I think I gave this a 9.2, 9.4, something like that. And then on the DF64, I gave it an 8.8. Sometimes my opinions change over the time. I think they're both deserving of those scores for their price point. I really think Eureka knocked it out of the park with their grinder. It's the first, like I said, flat burr grind by weight grinder that grinds directly into a portafilter. So if you do like to cut down on steps and all that stuff, I think it's a beautiful grinder for that. The only other option in that price category of like $700, $800 or less would be the Barista Sette WI, which I will be reviewing very soon. I will do a comparison video with those two. I have already reviewed the WI. I used that for a very long time, and I like that grinder a lot, actually. But in terms of like look and feel and everything, and obviously build quality, the Eureka, I think, does beat it out, generally speaking. So with that said, I hope this helped you if you were trying to think about a new grinder for yourself. Hope you had a great holiday, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks.